Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Once again, today I have a very special guest. His name is Steven Loung. So Steven Loung is a sports writer and reporter. He has experience covering a wide array of sports, including basketball, baseball, football, hockey, and Olympic sports. He has an unparalleled passion for sports that manifests in his work as both a writer and editor. With one of the most eclectic sports tastes in the newsroom, Steven can be found talking and writing about anything from as common as the NBA, MLB, NHL, to anything as niche as boxing, IndyCar, racing, and even esports. He first began in the industry as a general intern for Ontario Basketball in 2010. He then became a contributing writer and reporter for the Sports Network. Steven has also been a communications intern for Canada Basketball as well. Overall, he is an editor, writer, reporter, producer, and contributor for many prestigious journalism conglomerates here in Toronto. He has worked for CTV, 680 News, and Sportsnet Radio 590 The Fan. He is notably famous for his role at Rogers Sportsnet, where he was an NBA editor for the company. He has obtained a general Bachelor of Arts degree in English Language and Literature from the University of Toronto in 2009 and a sports journalism diploma from Centennial College in 2010. This gave him an experience to learn the skills of how to put together hard news stories and write live for the sports section on professional journalism websites. He is currently the communications and content specialist for Woodbine Entertainment, and now Steven Loung joins me live. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. That was a very comprehensive intro.
You liked it? It was okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So just to begin, just wanted to know, like, what's has been your experience like in this industry, and were you always fascinated to pursue sports journalism from a very young age?
I'll answer the second part first. I did
Sure.
not want to always pursue sports journalism from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Although I kind of did because I grew up like just reading the sports section. Essentially, it was like my dad would bring in the paper, and I would immediately flip through it and go straight to the sports section, and that would be like the Toronto Star and the Toronto Sun. So both those sections, both sports sections, I just grew up reading, and I didn't realize I wanted to really be a sports reporter until I was like midway through my university career,
Mm-hmm.
where I realized I didn't know what I wanted to do with
Right.
my literature degree that I was working towards. But I knew I needed like some kind of extracurricular, so I just started volunteering for the school paper, and they stuck me on sports,
I see.
and I just it's like, oh, this is pretty fun. This is something I could really do, and that kind of led me to Centennial, and that kind of launched everything. So since I've been in the industry, I mean, I'm kind of I'm kind of in between the industry right now, but like at here at Woodbine, but like horse racing is still sport.
Yeah,
But since I've been in the industry, like it's kind of it's it's been a great experience for me. Like I can't complain about working in sports. And working in sports doesn't necessarily have to mean you're working as a reporter. It can be working as a in communications or PR
right.
or on the finance side, anything. Like working in sports is inherently very fun,
For sure.
right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you get to do fun. There's fun experiences that come with it. Like you mentioned, I was the basketball editor at Sportsnet. Like I was in the building for the Kawhi Leonard shot. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like and even though I couldn't really cheer because I was always working,
Yeah.
but to feel the atmosphere, like the building was literally shaking. It was like the
Yeah, for
most
sure.
electric thing I've ever felt in my life.
Right.
So it's things like that. That's why you go into sports in the first place. Like another great moment I could think of. I had colleagues who were there in the building for the Jose Bautista bat flip. Right,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Right.
moment that they will never ever forget for the rest of their lives. And like these are the things, these moments are why I encourage anyone. If you have a passion for sports, make an effort. Like it can be very, very rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. Like I just started out this YouTube channel not knowing what like where this is going to go. I'm just bringing in guest speakers like yourself, professionals who are in the sports media industry or in the content creation industry. And since we're talking about the industry itself, do you feel that the traditional format of like sports journalism as a whole is kind of coming to a demise with the new evolution of content creation kind of taking its place?
Well, like I'm a writer, so like I will never say that like the written word will go away,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, uh, but to your point, uh, like content creation, like what you're doing, like as a YouTuber, there's also like live streams on Twitch.
Yes.
You know, even people who like doing TikToks,
Mhm.
Instagram Reels, all these things. It's I think it just helps. You know, it helps enhance like the sports media landscape, and I think there's still room for every little thing out there. So I don't think like traditional media will actually go away. Particularly, like I know everyone wants to talk about the death of television and
Mhm.
cable television, but you know, like the NBA is about to renegotiate a brand new television rights deal. The NHL just negotiated a new American TV rights deal with ESPN. You know, the NFL is a monster every single Sunday. You know, like on the major American networks, and so essentially it's like that. Uh, Even though you know, like a younger generation may not necessarily want cable TV, but I still think if you're a sports fan, you still will want cable television to a certain extent because that is where sports are and that's where sports live and in that sense, the traditional format of consuming sports content will still continue to live, just maybe in slightly different ways. Like I think of podcasts as opposed to maybe being on radio, right? Like there are obviously still sports radio stations, but I think most people are looking for podcast segments. But that the sports talk radio will still live on in
Mhm.
podcast. Newspapers may go by the wayside, but there's still digital journalism, and I think people still want to be able to consume and read about like particularly like player profiles that come out, right? Like I think
Right.
about like Michael Grange had a great profile before the start of the season about the new Raptors head coach Darko Rajakovic, right?
Right.
That kind of feature writing,
Mhm.
you can't get. It's more difficult to do that in a video format as opposed to the written word, where people have more time to sit down and read at their own pace. And it may not be in a newspaper; it might be on their phone, right, or on their computer. And I think that will continue to just always be a thing. This is how people like to consume sports content.
Right. I think it's Stephen. I think you can help me out here. Um, like in general, the journalism industry nowadays, like it's always ever changing. It's always changing, especially with nowadays with digital technology rapidly enhancing and developing as the days go on. I think you got to pick and choose what type of format you want to deliver your content. Like you said, the written word. I like it as well. I always like reading the paper, like physically reading the paper, even though that wasn't something that I grew up with. But my dad and my parents grew up with. I'm sure your parents did grow up reading the newspaper as well. I always like physical copies. I don't like reading it off like the telephone that much. But nowadays, you got to read it off the telephone in order for you to, understand and decode kind of the message the journal is disseminating towards you. But yeah, like you got to pick and choose. What do you think?
I'm sorry, like what? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, yeah. So like I'm trying to say like if you agree to like you have to pick and choose which type of content you want to put out there, like if it's a written word, which kind of channel you want to put it towards.
Well, me personally, like I said, I'm a writer.
Right.
If given the choice between like listening to a podcast or like watching a video or reading something, I will always choose to read something, and that's mainly because I can read faster than I can do, and like than I can watch a video or listen to a podcast, right? Like it's very easy for me to skim through something. But I think it just all comes down to personal preference, and like a big trend these days is called new media,
Mhm.
right? Started by I think most notably by JJ Redick and then Draymond Green, I think Paul George, just like kind of athletes uh, with their own kind of platform, their own podcasts to put forth their own message. And I know there's been some back and forth between whether or not this is good for media. I think if you're a fan, it's great to be able to get a direct message. You also have to be aware that there is inherent bias in some of the messaging of from like Draymond Green. Like if Draymond Green's talking about himself, talking about being suspended, there's inherent bias in his perspective on things, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's why I still think journalists are very important because unless it's a column, right, or like something on First Take or whatever, journalism is supposed to be impartial, supposed to be just here is what happened, and and maybe here are a few reasons this is why that happened, but that's all it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be there's not supposed to be a lot of bias inherent in there.
I see. Yeah, I totally agree with you. But kind of moving along from like the whole talk about sports journalism, I'm gonna bring our attention to the main focus of the day, which is the Toronto Raptors. So what are your prospects for this year, for the Raptors in particularly?
Well, I mean, I think we're about we're about 12, 13 games into the season
Right.
at the time of this recording.
Yes.
And I mean, I think the Raptors are exactly what they've kind of shown, which unfortunately is a lot of what they shown last season. Although they've gotten to that same point in very different ways, more positive ways, I would say. New head coach Darko Rajakovic. There was the big press conference, from Masai Trade talking about selfishness and selfish play last season, and yeah, the ball is moving a lot more. They're trying to play a more unselfish brand of basketball. That's a big positive, right? Scotty
Okay, yeah,
Barnes looks like he's taking a leap as to maybe an all-star turn here.
for
Big
sure.
positive,
Yep,
right?
be positive, yes.
But unfortunately, the results are just kind of the exact same. I think that's just because there's a personnel issue with the team. The team is not a great shooting team, and in the modern NBA, if if you cannot shoot, if you can't go floor out and spread the floor with just gunners every which way, you're going to struggle offensively.
Yeah,
And yes, they play good defense. They play much sounder defense than they did a season ago because they're not gambling, right?
right.
But it, it's really really hard to get stops in the modern NBA. Like the rule changes have made it so offense is absolute king, and you can't really just live on stopping people anymore. You got to be able to put the ball in the hole, and the Raptors struggle mightily doing that, particularly from distance. Which as everyone knows, like even back when people were just playing video game basketball before 2K really became a cultural thing, just threes are worth more than twos,
Yep.
and the Raptors cannot shoot threes at a good enough clip to really contend and be a great team. Like, are they an outwardly terrible team like Detroit Pistons? No, they're not a terrible team, but they're not a great team. And so that leaves us again with them kind of being sort of stuck in the middle. Like a 41 and 41 outcome looks very, very, like looks like that could be the thing once again, and that could be frustrating as a fan because you want to see progress, but at the same time, unless a big trade is made, and I don't think that's going to happen, I think that they're looking to just maybe stick with what they have, right? Unless then you have to consider about the process that they're going through right now, and you got to look at like the small positive steps they're making along the way, even if the results aren't really following that progress.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They're not a good three-point shooting team. They're very mediocre. Like you say, a 41 and 41 season could be foreseeable for the roster this year. And what do you make of this team coming into the trade deadline? I know it's a far way to look into things, but come trade deadline, do you think they will make a trade for someone such as like Zach LaVine, who has been in the rumor mill for them?
Well, if they make a my my sense with the Raptors has always been they're going to stand pat unless they're looking to sell.
Right.
Uh, and this front office is very time and again has shown they're not willing to sell on this what this core is, right? They had
Right.
many opportunities last season, like they probably should have traded Fred VanVleet instead of and got back some kind of asset in return for him. They didn't,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Uh, they it sounded like they had like some tremendous offers from maybe the Portland Trailblazers at the last trade deadline and during the off season and at around the draft, and
Yep.
they didn't. So all indication shows that like they're willing to kind of stick with what they have here.
Yep.
So whether or not so will they add? I mean, I'm not sure if a guy like Zach LaVine would necessarily fit with what they have. That they're already running into some positional redundancy with with Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes, and like I don't think they really had a great game where they've both played really well like
Yep.
together. They've had like individual performances where Pascal was amazing, but Scotty was down, and vice versa,
Right.
right? And so like I think they're having difficulty making that work. And then like OG Anunoby, they're kind of the third star in the team, is just kind of the plug and play guy. So what happens if you put in like a big usage player like a Zach LaVine? Yes, he can shoot the hell out of the ball, but like it might they're already struggling to try to make pieces fit and try to figure out what a pecking order is.
Yep.
Throwing in something like that, like because I think personally, I think Pascal Siakam is a better player than Zach LaVine.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
how is that going to? So how is that going to fit? But if LaVine comes in,
Mhm.
right? How is he? If well, if he gets traded to the Raptors, for example, would he not think that like, oh, I'm the guy. I'm the guy. I need to get the touches, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit very well. So if they're going to add, it should be add like more like on the fringes.
Right.
Like you look at Chicago, I think I have a guy like Caruso, right? But you also have to consider, um, you know, every other contending team, like legit contenders, will be going out looking at a player like a Caruso.
Yeah.
And same goes with like people. I'm pretty sure teams will be sniffing around the Raptors as well to see the availability of a Siakam with his contract situation, and maybe of an Anunoby just to see if the Raptors are willing to sell. But like there's been no indication from this front office that they want to sell like at all.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with you, Steven. Like you said in the past, there were trade scenarios and there were trade offers given to the Raptors. Like I remember the Pascal Siakam trade to go
It's all summer.
for him to go to the Atlanta Hawks, but he didn't
Yeah.
go to the Atlanta Hawks. He's stuck in Toronto. I think Masai really wants to keep this core roster of Anunoby, Barnes, and Pascal Siakam. He really does have his heart set on them. He really does have a belief in them that they will do well. But down the line, and I talked about this previously in my other interview as well with Luca Rosano, um, down the line, if you see a redundancy constantly in the NBA, like no matter what the team is, if they keep going into the playoffs and they keep collapsing in the playoffs and they come again in the playoffs and they keep collapsing, well, something's wrong, right? So you have to make certain adjustments to make this team better. Now, do you think this team is going to make a strong playoff run this year with this roster?
Well, first of all, like they'd have to actually make the playoffs, right?
Right, exactly.
Right now they're looking more like play in and then
Exactly.
hopefully things go right, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and quite frankly, it's just like it just goes back to the fact that I just don't think they have enough shooting, like
No, they don't. Yeah.
to really make much noise. Like can they win a couple one and done games in a play? Of course they can.
Mhm.
This team is good enough to beat any team on a one-off. They can beat any team in the NBA, right? They can certainly have the talent to be able to do so. But if you were to get into a longer series, I just don't think they have enough firepower to really make true noise. And so this kind of comes down to, like what the priorities of the team is, right? Like
Right.
there could be pressure from ownership to say like, hey, we just want you guys to make the postseason, right? Because like the program we want to turn a bit of a profit here from the Raptors, right? We don't
Right.
want we don't just want the Leafs propping everything up. We want the Raptors to be a little more profitable here,
Exactly.
right?
You're right.
And if that's a priority, then you kind of stay even keeled because this team is good enough to at least make a play in and at least like maybe make the playoffs from the play in, do a round, and you're making some postseason bucks here, right? But if the priority is actually to like maybe build a contender again, build a winner again, that's when you have to have a long and hard look in the mirror, realize what you are. You see Pascal Siakam's like contract is about to expire this season.
But yeah, there it's gonna go.
You
Yeah.
you look at the trade deadline as a means to try to acquire some more draft assets, and you look to reset and maybe go through like next season or the season after that, some pain, and just see what you have in Scotty Barnes as kind of a star, a prime time guy. See if
Yeah.
it works,
Yeah.
right? It may not, and which is a big gamble, but I mean, it's been proven. Like the best way to build a championship team is through the draft. Like particularly because the Raptors, like Toronto is not a small market, but the Raptors are a small market team in the NBA. So
Yes.
they're not the Los Angeles Lakers, not the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat. They can't just go out and say, we're going to go and get that guy.
Exactly.
It just doesn't happen.
No. Yeah, that's the sad reality of it, Steven. Like, the Raptors won the chip a couple years ago unexpectedly, out of nowhere. People didn't think, I didn't even think we would go into the conference finals, let alone win the title that year.
Well, I don't think it was out of nowhere. That there were like I covered that team. There was
Mhm.
big belief from everyone in the organization and that locker room for
Right.
sure.
I mean, the
That like
inside in the organization, I believe, but there was like the haters, right, who would say like Kawhi Leonard's coming from the injury. Will he do well in that season? Will he make it to the playoffs? Right. There was those uncertain questions. I totally agree. I had a belief that it could happen, and it did happen, and I'm happy that it did because it was a great day for all of us in Toronto, to see our team win, but to see kind of how each player kind of departed and exited, out of the Raptors was kind of sad to see. And
well,
now they're
they're very little back, right? It's really
exactly.
only like kind of Precious Achua
Hmm.
and the Kyle Lowry sign and trade
Yes.
in return, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you see like players departing, new arrivals coming. A new arrival for the Raptors this season was Dennis Schroeder coming in. Do you feel like he's fitting well with the team at the point guard position? In Clippers?
Schroeder has been, but like
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to be great, but like clearly he gained a major boost of confidence
Right.
coming off that World Cup MVP
Yes.
that he won, and obviously he won with Germany,
Yes.
and he's been fantastic, and I think again is that big boost of confidence because he won an MVP, and also like he's been given the keys to the car,
Yes.
so like he knows where his shots are coming because he can take any shot he wants, and he has been taking any shot he wants, and he's been hitting them. Like he's been a major success story, like kind of being the successor to a very beloved, not just Raptors figure, beloved Toronto sports figure in Fred Van
Yes.
Vliet. Right, there was a
Yes.
lot of consternation. I was one of them. I'm thinking that like, oh, like this guy cannot possibly replace what Van Vliet did for the Raptors. Now, could he be what Van Vliet was emotionally? Probably not, but he's certainly met the level of play that
Yes.
Van Vliet was playing at, and he was giving the Raptors He's giving the Raptors something that Van Vliet didn't. He's giving them much better playmaking, right? I just want to like he's one. I think he's might be top three, top five in assists. So far here to start the season, and he is playing the kind of basketball that the new head coach Rajakovic wants them to play. Like he's getting people to their proper spots. He's attacking when necessary, and I think he's only maybe had like just one bad game. He's been in like a home run kind of pickup for the Raptors here, particularly at the price they got him at.
Yeah, like the price they got him at was really like good for the organization. I think they got him for a low cost. And they are, doing well with him, and I think he's fitting well into the system. And with that in mind, which player in general do you think like do you expect a lot from this season moving forward?
It's got to be Scotty Barnes, right? Like
Exactly.
Barnes impressed in preseason, and then the start he's got off to this season, like I said, like he's looking like an all star.
Mhm.
He's and I think that's very important organizationally because the Raptors need a star, right? There's a potential. There is a definite future where Pascal Siakam is no longer with the team at the like maybe at trade deadline or at the end of this season, this contract expiring. And Scotty Barnes has got to be that guy to take the next step. And he had a bit of a sophomore slump after like an electric rookie of the year season, and he's really he's taken that extra jump. And like the biggest
Yeah,
positive has probably been um, he's shooting the ball a lot better than he did last season, and he's playing with a lot more force. Like particularly on his post ups, and well, we saw from his rookie season he's a great passer, great vision, but
great.
he's just kind of it looks like he got in the weight room. Like he really strong as hell, but he looks like he's got even bigger, even stronger,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's really showing. And I think the Raptors need it. So like
Yeah,
they need him.
yeah, they absolutely need him. And a lot of the teams in the NBA will look at this roster and think like, they're okay, they're decent. Scotty's there, but in general, Steven, what do you think about the whole, NBA in-season tournament? I mean, we just played the Celtics in the in-season tournament a couple days ago, and it wasn't that bad. We came back, we lost, strong, we came back. But what do you feel about this whole notion of the NBA in-season tournament? Do you think it's going to take away, that whole feeling of the playoffs when it comes in, April time or May time? Or do you feel like it's just going to help boost the players to just help them practice for the actual the finals?
Uh, well, you know, the NBA in-season tournament, like the reason for it is because the NBA is just looking for like little more eyeballs on during really what is a dead period for the
Right.
league.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Most people don't really actually tune into the NBA until after the NFL season, or like they tune in on Christmas Day, and then the NFL playoffs are happening, and then they tune into the NBA for like kind of the stretch run, unless you're like a really hardcore NBA fan. So that's the whole reason for the NBA season tournament, just to drum up a little extra excitement.
Yep.
Whether or not it'll take away from the playoffs, it won't take away from the playoffs at all, because that's when people really tune in to the NBA. So it's kind of a nice to have. I don't think the $500,000 incentive is quite enough. I think there should be more like a real competitive incentive. Like you can do something crazy, like the winner of the in season tournament gets an automatic playoff berth or is guaranteed like a lottery spot in,
Right.
in the NBA draft, right?
Exactly.
Like I think that would really then motivate organizations, um, and but like players are going to get up for games regardless, because like this still goes towards their regular season record. And let's say if you're at the Boston Celtics, as you mentioned, they're gunning for tops in the East. So of course every single game matters to them. Just because it's on a fancy new court doesn't it don't like won't make a difference to them. They're trying to win, right? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
and uh, so like I don't think players need that extra incentive, but I think for particularly for fan interest, there should be a more competitive incentive to try to win this new NBA Cup. But I don't think this is going away. Like the NBA likes to experiment with things.
Right.
So and it's not a bad idea to just to try to see if they can get a few more eyeballs on the sport away from the NFL. Like while the NFL season is playing, like those courts are very distinctive, right? They look
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think the Raptors have the only classy looking court of all the courts that we've seen.
For sure, yeah, it looks great out there with their new jerseys as well. I'm expecting a lot from them against Orlando. I want them to crush Orlando, and I hope they learn a lot from Boston because they lost the two meetings with Boston this year. But in general, Steven, what teams do you feel will make it to the conference finals? I know it's a long way to look at it. The trade deadline's not even here, and maybe other teams in the NBA will make huge
Yeah.
splashes. We don't know yet. But what teams do you feel, as of this moment, without the trade deadline, impacting the teams, will make it to the conference finals or the finals?
So like the Eastern Conference Final, this isn't much of a surprise because of the top two teams in the East.
Yes, right.
Like the Celtics and Sixers, I think are clearly the best teams in the East. That the Bucks could obviously make a big push, but
Yep.
health is a factor. I think losing Drew Holiday has like, even though Damian Lillard is a fabulous player, losing Drew Holiday has hurt what Milwaukee wants to do defensively,
Yeah,
and I
for
think
sure.
that was a big part of their identity, and they've now lost kind of a big aspect of who they were and how they want to play. So integrating Dame may not be as proven to not be as seamless as everyone thought it was going to be. So in that sense, and then in Philly, like Tyrese Maxey, he's going to be an all-star. Uh, like that combination, that pick and roll combination with Maxey and Embiid is absolutely unstoppable. That the team looks incredible. Like looks like they may finally get it together here and compete in a conference final. Out west, things are a little more scattered, with the exception of maybe like Denver is still the best team in in the West for sure. Like obviously there's injuries with Jamal Murray once again, but we're still so far away from the playoffs.
Yeah,
He could certainly like recover in time. And like Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world, best player in basketball. So how can you bet against a team with the very best player in basketball? As for the Nuggets opponent, uh, I still like Phoenix, even though like they've struggled with some injuries and they haven't been able to put things together. But like how could I bank against a team that has Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal? It's really hard to bank against it.
yeah, exactly. And as we hit the 5 minute mark, Stephen, I just want to say thank you first and foremost for coming on the show. But my last question to you is, what type of advice would you give to someone who wants to go into the sports journalism industry or just become a content creator?
So if you want to get into sports media, to do similar to what you're doing right now, right?
Perfect.
Like like there's no reason why you can't just start putting stuff out there. Like when I was starting, like it was a little different. There were like blogs and stuff like you could, but from a writer perspective, you can do something like maybe if you're interested in the Raptors, like you can try and get in touch with like Raptors Republic or Raptors HQ to see if they're looking for people. Um, if you're looking to not go the blogger route, then like certainly journalism school is a great place. It's essentially what you want to do is you want to try to build a network, and the way you build a network is like you can try to create your own stuff. Like you have your own channel here, uh, but it's most important that you just get out there and talk to people who are in the industry, and uh,
Okay.
and and uh, and like one connection could lead to the next, lead to the next. Like sports media is essentially, like it's cliche to say, but like it's about who you know. Like I think everyone has the skills to do what's necessary. Like you everyone, if you're a sports fan, you can probably work in the sports media industry. It just takes knowing the right person and who can make the right phone call for you, make the right connection for you.
Yeah.
And I know it's not great advice, but it's honestly what has always worked for me.
Oh
Like
yeah, 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 for sure. Like I totally agree with you, Steven. Like you have to make those connections right from the get-go and try to just put out content like what you said, make a YouTube channel. Why not? And just test it out. And yeah, but Steven, thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And yeah, I hope you have a great day.
yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.